and just kind of check in. I don't know that I have a ton to say compared to normal, but one major thing that we have been working on is Silver, and oh my gosh, I cannot get over how frustrating it is to draw characters versus sprites. Like, I have been genuinely enjoying, like, I'm pretty sure a few vlogs back I was talking about, like, this is the first time I've, like, lost sense of time while working on a hobby. I love it, blah, 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 blah. All true. Love drawing some of the stuff. Hate drawing characters. I hate it. I'm hoping I'll get better at it, because it is so far one of the most frustrating, like, experience I've had so far in this game creation process, because we started with a certain Silver in the beginning, and she has changed like 8 times, and not only that, but we didn't even know she was going to be metal at first, and now we are having so much trouble figuring out how to make her skin tone look metal. Like, we've looked at all of these different things, and unfortunately fortunately and unfortunately, there aren't many characters who were metal. Like, you've got the Silver Surfer, you've got the girl who's in My Teenage Robot and stuff like that, and they all do it kind of differently, but because we're going for this, like, cartoony style, the Silver Surfer is, like, no help at all. He's hyper realistic. He actually looks like metal. Like, kudos to them. They did a great job. We, on the other hand, are having so much trouble trying to decide if she should be more gray toned, or like grayish white toned, or blue toned, or like where those things should be. So she goes back and forth between kind of looking like a zombie and looking like she's blue. So hopefully we'll become geniuses by the time we end up actually publishing her. But part of what's difficult is, like, trying to settle on something for now, even though you don't love it, because when it comes down to it, maybe I'll never love her until the end, or maybe we won't figure out something about her visual appearance until we finish the story, and then we'll be like, oh my gosh, that's totally what she was missing, or, you know, whatever. We really have to design, like, the backgrounds and stuff like that too, to understand what skin color is gonna actually, like, show up really well and make it look visually interesting and make her look memorable. Like, one thing that Matthew and I have talked about a lot is kind of using the "who's that Pokemon" style to give her a noticeable silhouette, and I just don't know that we've achieved it yet, and that's a super bummer. Especially after, between Matthew and I, basically what ends up happening is he'll draw something and then he'll send it to me and I'll hate it. And so then I'll redraw something, edit something about it, and he'll be like, okay, sure, but I still hate it. And then he'll redo it, and we've just been back and forth. She's been through like 7 different outfits now, none of which I'm in love with. Though the most recent version I do like better. I think she's starting to get cool. We just decided to put a cloak on her. Who knows? I'll be so curious to see by the end, like, what she's actually wearing, because to tell you the truth right now, we have no idea. We have no idea. So if you are going through and creating a game, or just you've played our game and your backlog watching this, hopefully it actually exists, and, like, you're like, wow, I wonder how that got created. Know that Silver has been a problem child, and we do not know what to do with her, and we do not know what kinds of clothes she needs to wear, especially because our game is going to go through like the multiple eras. We certainly don't want her to look too adult in era 1, because obviously her character's not going to get, like, taller. We're just going to change the facial features and stuff like that. So we have to come up with clothing that is A, kid enough, that makes her look like a kid, but B, that looks interesting enough and that looks medieval. Like, one of the craziest things we'd started working on, she looked like she just walked straight out of a freaking, like, Hot Topic in the 2000s. And Matthew called her ladybug style because she was in red and black and stuff like that. But, like, she did not look medieval at all. And so we're really trying to figure out, like, clothing that makes her look medieval but also keeps her young. And the zombie skin. The zombie skin is worse than the clothes. But either way, hands are hard, people are hard, everything is difficult, but it's gonna be okay. I think we've pretty much decided, like, Matthew's doing our final iteration today. We're already 3 days overdue on our due date that we arbitrarily set for ourselves, saying no more silver after this. She's taking up too much time. We have other stuff we need to do. We're trying to get the demo done by October 1st. Silver, you're cut off. And we're bad at actually cutting ourselves off. So, she will be cut off. We're working on it. Anyway, so that's what's been going on with silver. Other than that, for the past like 3 or 4 days, my task has been to start actually designing the level. But every single time I go to start doing that, unfortunately, the tiles are just like not quite right. Now, we did figure out one very useful thing, and by we, I mean Matthew, because he's the one who like always teaches me how to do new things in Unity, because I don't know if any of you have actually gone in Unity. Probably some of you have. It's not the most like immediately user-friendly looking program. Now, as you continue to use it, it gets a little bit better, though from like a user interface perspective, there are absolutely things that I would love to have them change if I ever had that sort of power. For example, like moving around tiles. I don't know if I'm just doing it wrong or whatever, but there are certain things where like you have to switch between tools, or like if a certain thing is selected that's not obvious at all, you can't do anything. Like there's a little edit tab on the tile palette selector, and like if you have accidentally clicked it and you can't do anything. Like all of a sudden everything stops working, and it takes me like a few minutes to figure out, oh, it's that dumb edit tab again that got selected somehow. So anyway, that's my complaint there. But basically what's happened is we keep importing tiles. We have tried like 7 different variations of these tiles, and now the good news is we can rotate them and stuff like that, because Matthew figured that out, so we don't have to actually import like all 7 varieties of one tile. But the issue becomes like, right now we have a corner that's great that goes like this, but we really need the same one to go like this. And you can't just like rotate it to solve that. It actually needs to be like physically flipped and edited. Like it needs to flip, if that makes sense. And there, at least so far, doesn't seem to be a way to do that in the program. So back to the drawing board. And then things are just crazy right now, because at the same time I'm onboarding a big new change for my like full-time real job. So I'm just feeling a little frazzled. Now, that being said, it was so funny because I've been so busy with all our stuff, and Matthew doesn't really like to play mini games either. Like he's very particular, just like I am, about the kind of games that he likes. We were all playing a game last night, and it was so much fun. It's called PlateUp. And I had never heard of it, but basically if you think of Overcooked and then you make it like a different art style, and you can edit your kitchen and the way it's set up and stuff like that is a huge part of it, and then it acts like a roguelike. Like if you mess up, if you fail one day and your customers are unhappy, like your run ends. And you can make different kinds of food and stuff like that. It's a very fun game, but it was, I don't know, I think it's because I'm feeling a little chaotic these days. We were playing it, and their characters are just like the blobbiest little stick figure fun things. Like if you think of like Humans Fall Flat, that style of person. And I was like, why are we designing a game with so much like high intensive graphics? Like I say high intensive, it's not like Siege or something like that. Like obviously it's a 2D one, but we're doing hand-drawn art and shading and all of this. And this super fun game that we were playing was like the blobbiest little characters, the easiest assets ever, like all of that. I was just feeling so jealous. But at the same time, like I have a lot of pride in what we were creating, but I was like, are you kidding me? This is so smart. Why did we not choose a game to start that is a little bit easier to get into? Now, that being said, there are elements of it that were more difficult. Like I honestly at this point don't know how they do like the randomization or like the rolling so that they have so many different variations of kitchens and, you know, all of that, and how the user can edit them as well. That's very cool, and I would love to have the skill to be able to understand that, and I suppose eventually I will, potentially, but there are just so many things to learn throughout this process. Like I feel like every single time I start getting a handle on something, I realize that was just the tip of another iceberg, and there's so much more to learn. So you know, that's why you've got this weird chaotic energy going on today where I'm a little hyper, but like also a little crazy and like, I don't know. We'll just have to see. I do feel like we're making good progress, but it's stop and start, if that makes sense. Like one day I'll feel so amazing about the progress we've made and I'll come on here and I'll make this really excited video, and then the next day it turned out 3/4 of that stuff has to be redone and I feel disheartened and whatever. So just know that this process is an emotional roller coaster, and that part of it, it's gonna be fine, but I would love some consistency, and I'm hoping, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, that like after we've done all of these things in an area for the first time, they're gonna feel a lot more accessible. I think instead of just like doing all the story first and then designing in chronological order, I think we're going to design by area first and then, you know, make sure that the story works, because we want it to be very heavily story based, or at least have like an interesting story going on, not heavily story based in that like there's not gameplay. No, we're mostly making it gameplay. What else do I have to share? What else have I been up to? I feel like I haven't checked in with you guys in a while, and I still need to figure out how to update this. So you know why I haven't actually uploaded these videos as I'm recording them. Number one, I made a logo the other day, like a while back, maybe like 2 weeks ago, and Matthew and I went back and forth and we asked some of the people we know, like, hey, what do you think of these? Everyone said, yeah, they're good, but like not my favorite. And I was like, I agree. What do I do now? So I hired someone off of Fiverr to go and like edit it and try and make it. And I don't like any of her variations so far. She is so nice, but I'm a picky person. And so I'm trying to like, you know, get a variation that we really like that's actually in a vector file. And then once I have that vector file, then I can make an introduction. You've probably seen the introduction if there ends up ever being one already, but know that that's currently like, if you're thinking about what are they doing in real time right now, like as I'm making this video, I'm currently trying to get a vector version of a logo that we really like so that I can pay someone to create like a little like animated YouTube intro with music. That's it. That's the only thing holding me back from uploading some of these. That and of course utter fear. But I feel like I'm mostly over the fear of like being on the internet, and I mostly just want to upload these videos because I've been making them and they're starting to lag so much behind like real life. Like it'll be, you know, you'll be able to gauge it, I guess, knowing like that's what she's working on as she's talking about all these things. How much longer does it take to upload them? Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. I would have thought I'd have these up like 2 weeks ago. But everything's going to be okay. That's been taking up a lot of time. The tiles have been taking up a lot of time. Designing silver has been taking up a lot of time. And the other thing that I'm working on is the enemies for the level. Now, Matthew and I have been talking back and forth so much about the enemies because basically what I think we're going to do, at least at this point, is we're considering basically making merged animals as the base enemies, and then of course you're fighting people with powers as the final enemies, and we'll also have, you know, variations on that. It won't always be animals, but at least for this area I think it's going to be like basically two animals merged together in like a creepy like DNA splicing kind of looking way. So I started the way that I usually do, like looking at a reference picture and taking like, oh, that's what an alligator looks like. Okay, let me go ahead and draw him out in line art and do all of that. And then I was like, oh, and that's what a jellyfish looks like. So let me go ahead and draw that. And then I kind of, like a mad scientist, like put them all together in like a very horrifying way. Like I don't disagree with Matthew that these things look kind of horrifying and like nightmare fuel, whatever. The thing is, I think they also look kind of awesome. So we really have to decide if we want like horrifying enemies that are kind of disturbing, or if there's a way to make them cuter. Like I went back through when I played the beginning of Hollow Knight yesterday just to kind of remind myself about like how the enemies look and like, did they instill immediate and catastrophic fear in your heart? No? Okay, so are we doing something different? We'll just have to figure that out. I don't know yet what we're gonna decide on, but so far I only seem to be able to make just like pretty horrifying enemies. So you know, you guys will have insight. I'll probably try to find, I'm unsure of how many like images and stuff I want to post in here, because what if we end up totally changing our style in our mind? I guess that would be fun for you to see, like what Enemies initially looked like, where we started, where we ended up. My worry about that is that if we end up changing them, you'll go, oh my gosh, you never should have changed those. Like, imagine your game would have stood out so much if you had these like horrific looking, you know. Anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with it though, even if it just ends up being like a fun little art project. You know, it is fun letting my like little evil mind come out to play. So anyway, that's mostly what we've been up to. Other than that, like I said, work, like my real job has been very busy recently. So just trying to find balance and not get burnt out. Like I don't know if you guys can tell, but my work ethic is like the thing I pride myself on. I mean, I can work and work and work and I get stuff done and I don't have fun until I'm done. But I've been doing that so much. I've been working like 12, 14 hour days. It feels like maybe that's an exaggeration, but I don't think so. Like I haven't been doing anything outside of either my full-time job or making a game in like a week and a half. It feels like I've maybe played like an hour of Siege on a couple of days and that's it. But yesterday it was 7 p.m. and I just finished my normal work and I was like, okay, time to start on the tiles. And I started working on them because the way that I structure my day is I don't let myself have fun until I've completed every single thing. Because once I start having fun, I like can't force myself to go back. So anyway, I was like, okay, it's 7 p.m., but you've still got stuff to do. Like, do it. Like, do it. You know, I had to kind of like force myself to do it. And I can't tell you how grateful I was when the tiles didn't work. Like, I was like incredibly relieved to tell Matthew, hey, these still don't work. You still need this, because it meant that I was free. So I don't know why I tell you that except to just like have you know that even if you are just an incredibly hard worker, you're passionate about what you're making, you love your job, you love your two jobs, like it is okay to be tired and you've got to listen to yourself, because I have a feeling that if I had laid out those tiles yesterday, I would have been really miserable and we wouldn't have gotten to play that really fun played up game with everyone that like made my night and you know made me again like excited about creating a game that people will be excited to play. It actually made me really want to make a multiplayer game at some point just because it was so much fun to play with people, but we're not gonna, that's why I've like got to stop myself, right? Because another thing I've been working on is I've started writing down sort of what this process was like. I went to go try to make the Notion the other day and I got super overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't made this yet because it's hard to make. And so I didn't end up making the Notion with like the layout of, okay, if you're making a game, this is probably a really helpful like outline and this is a tool I wish I'd had. Turns out the reason it doesn't exist is because it's hard to make. Now it's still on my to-do list and I'm hoping it exists eventually, but instead what I did was I wrote about like 8 pages of sort of how to take an idea and turn it into something more. And I'm hoping to kind of, as we go through the different steps in the process, similar to what I'm doing with these videos, like create almost like a step-by-step guide. I don't know what we'll do with it. I don't know if it will be long enough to be a book or if it'll be, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm trying to distill this process down into easier to access information to make this whole process seem accessible, because I think it should be. Like if I'm freaking creating a game, anyone can create a game. So anyway, just kind of writing down the tidbits. What am I even saying? Who knows? I've got too much energy. You'd think I'd have had coffee today. The fact that I have not had coffee and I have this much energy at 10:30 in the morning is a little bit frightening to me. It means I'm gonna be combative today. But we'll see. Poor Matthew during our meeting, he'll probably want to end it very quickly. But anyway, just all that to say, I have no moral. I have no summary. I don't know what I was just trying to go for there. But you guys rock it. You have a good day. You know that Studio Grumble is out there doing its best, and I am very hopeful we are creating an awesome game, but goodness gracious, there is a lot to do that goes into a game. So if you're feeling disheartened as you create your own, know that even the amazingness that is our game, when it comes to fruition, it was hard. This process is really hard. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. I don't mean to just be like pessimistic or depressing or whatever, but that's what we're going through, and I think that seeing the realism of something is hopefully helpful. If it's not, it exists. This exists here, and whoever wants to watch it will watch it, and whoever doesn't, like, okay, that's fine too. Alright, have a good day, everyone. I'll check in again when I've got either another crazy rant, or a big update, or just am feeling like chatting to a camera instead of being alone in the car again.